Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Deicide, and in this video, we're going to go ahead and discuss how to play on the Titan, and more specifically, how to play on the Striker subclass. Of all the subclasses returning from Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, this Striker subclass is by far one of the biggest fan favorites, and that's because number 1, this subclass has one of the most powerful grenades in this entire game, and you even have the option to have 2 of them if you still choose. Inversely related to this, you also have the option to have a monstrosity of a melee that is easily going to devastate Guardians, and no matter how that you look at it, you really can't go wrong. On top of both of these things, we're also going to discuss exactly how these abilities are going to be used for an aggressive or passive playstyle, as well as the pros and cons, and so the only thing left to do is to eviscerate that subscribe button, and let's jump right into the video. One of the most important factors about any subclass in general is the way in which you maneuver. Now on the Titan, you have 3 types of jumps. You either have the option to do a high lift, a catapult lift, or a strafe lift, and all 3 of them are very, very unique, and they have their different scenarios in which they shine. A high lift is a jump ability that launches you into the air at greater heights. A catapult lift is a jump ability that launches you into the air with strong initial burst of momentum, and a strafe lift is a jump ability that launches you into the air with strong directional control. Of all 3 of these jumps, I would strongly advise you guys to either use a catapult lift or a strafe lift, and that's because they are the most beneficial for different types of scenarios. With a catapult lift, that's going to give you that strong initial burst of momentum, and that's fantastic for getting in and out of cover or possibly getting into the air very, very quickly. It's beneficial not just for getting to doorways or getting around the cover like I mentioned, but it's also very beneficial for getting over into archways so that you can break line of sight, and that's going to be much, much more beneficial than any other type of jump. With a strafe lift, this is a jump ability that has that strong directional control, and the way in which this becomes the most beneficial is covering the largest horizontal distance possible. This is exactly the kind of jump that you want to have, especially if you're playing very, very competitive game modes like Survival or Countdown, or more importantly than this, Survival and Countdown within Trials of Osiris. So if you really want to get map control and get that center positioning down faster, then strafe lift is by all means the best way to go, but also keep in mind that you're not going to have that ability to get into the air very, very quickly, and that's where catapult lift is going to shine. The next ability that we have got to discuss, and something that can be found on all Titan subclasses, is the option to either use a towering barricade or a rally barricade. A towering barricade summons a large barrier that can be used to reinforce a position with cover from enemy fire. A rally barricade summons a small barrier that allows you to peek over it, and that instantaneously reloads your equipped weapon while aiming down the sights. So right here we can see that we have 2 very distinct advantages and disadvantages from each one of these abilities. With a towering barricade, you can use this to not only cover off an entire area, but you can go ahead and block passageways so that people can't get through there, because if they do happen to come through your Titan shield through that passageway, then that ultimately means they're going to be half health, and all you gotta do is simply melee them once and they're going to die instantaneously. Not just this, but a towering barricade is very, very beneficial for giving you cover from one direction, so that all you have to worry about is the other direction in which someone's trying to pinch you from, and so that ultimately allows you to be more focused on that one direction, more likely allowing you to win that gun battle engagement. Inversely related to this is that rally barricade, and it's a very, very small barricade like I already said, but it's very, very beneficial for holding down control capture points. The reason why it's so great for this is because you can pop a rally barricade on a control capture point like A, B, or C in control, and that's going to allow you to peek over it, giving you instantaneous cover, but at the exact same time, it's already going to reload your primary or your secondary weapon. This is a phenomenal ability and simply can't be done between the towering barricade, but what I happen to use the most often is the towering barricade, and that's because it allows me to block passageways entirely, allowing me to focus on one direction and one direction alone. By blocking one passageway entirely, this allows you and your entire team to focus on one particular direction, allowing you to do more team shots, and that's exactly what Crucible PvP is all about. Team shots, team shots, team shots, and that towering barricade is going to do exactly that. One of the most pivotal characteristics about any subclass in Destiny 2 is the way in which the grenades function. For the Titan Striker subclass, you have 3 grenades, one of which is called a pulse grenade, followed by a flashbang grenade, and then followed by a lightning grenade, all 3 of which are phenomenal and spectacular grenades, and so you really can't go wrong with whichever one that you want to choose. With a pulse grenade, this is a grenade that periodically damages enemies inside its explosive radius and does an instantaneous damage output. With a flashbang grenade, this is an explosive grenade that disorientates the enemies it damages with a slight damage output. The lightning grenade is a grenade that sticks to surfaces and emits bolts of lightning for a massive damage output, but has a very delayed effect. So with all three of these grenades, the one that you guys are most likely going to use, and the one that I use quite often, is a pulse grenade. The reason why the pulse grenade is so powerful is because the instantaneous damage output. An instantaneous damage output on a grenade simply isn't found on many grenades at all, and so the fact that it's on the pulse grenade is why it's so beneficial. Not just this, but the pulse grenade also lasts a very long time, and you can use it for a multitude of ways, not just for damaging enemy guardians very quickly, but you can also use it as controlled chokehold points. What I mean by this is that you can toss one of these grenades into an alleyway or into a doorway or into a passageway of any kind, and that's going to immediately deter the enemy guardians from going to that direction. This is phenomenal and stupendous, and that's because it allows you to focus on another type of aspect that's happening within the game, and that could be the difference between winning a round in survival or possibly winning a round in countdown. The next grenade that we've got is one that's called the flashbang grenade, and like I said from earlier, it emits that massive disorientating flash, and that's phenomenal because again, it lasts for a very long time. That flash effect lasts for a solid 5 to 6 seconds, and that really isn't going to go away, allowing the enemy guardians to be blinded for that long of a time. Because it lasts for that long, that's going to allow you to go ahead and ambush the enemy because they have no idea where you're coming from, and you're most likely going to be able to finish them off as long as they don't get a lucky grenade or a lucky shot or something else along those lines. The very last grenade that we've got is one that's called a lightning grenade, and this lightning grenade used to be the most powerful grenade back in Destiny 1, but since then, it's gotten a massive nerf. The way in which it's gotten a nerf is the way in which the lightning grenade emits its bolts of lightning. Before, back in Destiny 1, this used to be an instantaneous effect, whereas in Destiny 2, this is a much more of a delayed effect. That's going to allow the enemy guardians to get out of the lightning bolt very quickly, and then the grenade may go to waste entirely. Now I will have to state that this lightning grenade is very beneficial because it holds down a large area, but just keep in mind that people are going to be able to go through those grenades if they happen to time it right. So of all three of these grenades, I would still suggest that you guys go with the pulse grenade, and that's because not only does it do that instantaneous damage output, but that's because it can do a large control area of effect, and in addition to this, it can even do up to 100, possibly even 120 points of damage every single time that it emits a shock. This shock occurs very frequently, and so for this reason and this reason alone, the pulse grenade is 110% the way to go. Another huge factor in order to determine exactly how you guys want to use this Titan Striker's subclass is the skill tree in which you want to utilize the most. You have the option of either choosing Code of the Earthshaker or Code of the Juggernaut, and how each one of these things functions is very different. With Code of the Earthshaker, this entire skill tree is designed around grenades, whereas Code of the Juggernaut is designed around the entire melee and the melee ability. So from just me saying these two differences alone, you can really already decide exactly which one that you want to use based on how your personal preference is and whether you like to use grenades or melees, and it really just depends on your playstyle. With the Code of the Earthshaker, the very first ability that we've got here is called Magnitude, and Magnitude states that you gain an additional grenade charge, and it also increases the duration of the grenade and its effect. So right here, not only do we get to choose the grenade, but we have a second grenade that we want to use that can be the exact same thing, and at the same time, that grenade's effects are going to last twice as long. This is phenomenal and stupendous no matter how that you want to look at it, and in my humble opinion, this is by far the best skill tree just because you have the option to have two grenades. There is no other type of skill tree or subclass within Destiny 2 that allows you to have two grenades, and because of this, the Earthshaker skill tree is phenomenal and stupendous in every way, shape, and form. Like I already said from before, I would go with that pulse grenade, and whenever you have the option to have two pulse grenades, that's exceptional, and having two pulse grenades has saved my bacon more times than I can possibly count. The next ability that we've got is one that's called Seismic Strike, and Seismic Strike states that after sprinting for a short time, you can use this melee ability to slam your targets and release an arc explosion on impact. Essentially what this is a shoulder charge back from Destiny 1, but it's not quite the same shoulder charge that you and I both remember. Back in Destiny 1, a shoulder charge can instantaneously kill a Guardian, whereas this Seismic Strike can no longer do that. In addition to this shoulder charge, aka Seismic Strike, is very different because it also does a radial effect as soon as you damage one Guardian. So what essentially this means is that you can go ahead and damage multiple Guardians if they're in close proximity, and that's something that you simply could not do back in Destiny 1. The next ability that we've got is one that's called Aftershocks, and Aftershock states that damaging enemies with Seismic Strike recharges your grenade. So right here we can already see that whenever we damage a Guardian using Seismic Strike, we're going to instantaneously recharge our grenade, and that's phenomenal because most likely we're already going to have used at least one grenade. And so as soon as we use that Seismic Strike, Aftershock is then going to take effect and it's going to recharge that grenade just like this. And for this simple reason, Magnitude, Seismic Strike, and Aftershock go hand in hand, and that's why it's so exceptional. The very last perk that we've got on this Code of the Earthshaker skill tree is one that's called Terminal Velocity. And Terminal Velocity states that Fist of Havoc's ground slam attack leaves a damage dealing field in its wake and deals more damage the longer that it's in the air. Unfortunately, this perk only affects our super, and as we all know in Destiny 2, we're only going to get our super once, maybe twice per game if we're lucky, and so it's only going to come in handy whenever we're using that particular ability. However, I will state that whenever you're in the air, and the longer that you have your Terminal Velocity effect active, that's when Fist of Havoc becomes much stronger due to this overall ability, and I'm not going to lie, it definitely comes in handy as I've gotten multiple kills just from this Aftershock effect. The next skill tree that we're going to discuss is one that's called Code of the Juggernaut, and the very first perk in this skill tree is called Frontal Assault. Frontal Assault states that when you strike an enemy with this melee ability, you reload your weapon and it also increases the weapon's stability immediately. This is phenomenal and once again spectacular just because the very simple fact that this ability goes hand in hand with Kill Clip. I know it's for 110% that whenever you have Frontal Assault active, that's also going to increase your reload speed, making Kill Clip on any primary weapon absolutely destructive. The next ability that we've got is called Reversal, and Reversal states that melee kills immediately trigger health regeneration. No matter how that you look at this is once again incredible in every way, shape, and form. I don't know about you guys, but I happen to find myself very low in health whenever I get into a melee engagement. Because of this, it normally takes 1 or 2 melees, and that ultimately means that I've taken at least 1 melee, possibly 2 melees, depending on how much health that I have. With this Reversal perk, I'm going to instantaneously regenerate my health, and that's exceptional in every way, shape, and form. The next perk that we've got is one that's called Knockout. And Knockout states that critically wounding an enemy or breaking their shield increases the melee range and damage. So right there, once again, as soon as we happen to melee one Guardian or possibly even break their shield, we are already going proc Knockout, which is then going to increase our overall damage output, allowing us once again to win that melee engagement, and then that is also going to proc Reversal, making it so that once again, those melee abilities are going to come in handy quite often. As soon as we do happen to get that melee kill, that's when we're also going to proc Frontal Assault and get that faster stability and also that faster reload speed for proccing Kill Clip more frequently. The very last perk that we've got is one that's called Trample, and Trample states that killing enemies with Fist of Havoc extends its duration. So right there, this is fantastic again, because whenever we get 1 kill with our Fist of Havoc super, that's ultimately going to allow us to use our super longer, which is going to allow us then to get more kills and ultimately help the team get into whatever type of scenario that is going to benefit us the most. No matter which skill tree that you guys happen to select, you're going to have 3 abilities that are going to be procced in continuous gameplay, whereas you're only going to have 1 other ability that's only going to be procced on your super. With the Code of the Earthshaker build, this one is really designed around your grenade, and it's also going to allow you to have Seismic Strike, aka Shoulder Charge, and that can not only be used for that explosive impact, but it can also be used for a maneuverability standpoint to allow you to go into third-person perspective and also cover horizontal distance much faster, whereas that simply can't be done with the Code of the Juggernaut build. However, Code of the Juggernaut build does have 1 key focus, and that focuses around melees, and so you're going to be proccing 3 abilities on 1 single melee. Not just this, but this ability in this skill tree is the only one that can allow you to regenerate your health, and so whichever skill tree that you guys happen to select is going to be entirely up to you and how each one fits your personal playstyle the best. The very last thing that I want to mention about the overall subclass is how to utilize the super. With the Striker Titan subclass super, it's meant to be designed as an instantaneous super at first, and then transfers into a continuous super, at which point you then can either use a shoulder charge or another slam to eviscerate the enemy guardians. The very first rule of thumb is to number 1, close the gap as much as you possibly can. As soon as you believe that you closed enough of that gap, I want you to activate that instantaneous part of the super for your initial slam. As soon as you get as many guardians as you can, and then you see that you have to get more guardians, it's up to you to then determine whether or not you should do another slam or a shoulder charge by pushing R2 or R1 respectively. If you believe that enemy guardians are still in close enough proximity, then it's entirely up to you to go ahead and push R2 to activate your second slam and eviscerate the next guardian. If you believe that the enemy guardian is too far away for a slam, then that's when you have to press R1 to activate your shoulder charge and cover a larger horizontal distance and still send the enemy guardian to Timbuktu. If you don't happen to kill that guardian with that first slam, I still want you to go ahead and press the shoulder charge button, so then that way you cover the largest horizontal distance possible, while at the exact same time exerting the lowest amount of super energy. Whenever you do a slam, you exert the most of your super energy, but a shoulder charge exerts less energy, and at the same time, you cover a larger horizontal distance. If you happen to see a guardian that's far away, never attack that guardian with continuous shoulder charges in one straight line, but rather, I want you to attack them in a diagonal direction so that you zigzag back and forth, and that makes it more likely that the enemy guardian misses their shots, while at the same time, you still reach them and are able to send them to another realm. As long as you guys can keep those things in mind whenever you're using that super, I guarantee you that you're going to be just like the Hulk and making the enemy team a little bit salty. With all these things being said, you guys now have a very thorough understanding of how this entire Titan Striker subclass works with its pros and cons, using the grenades, its abilities, and skill trees, and so I really want to know your guys' thoughts on exactly which playstyle is going to fit you the best. Just keep in mind that whichever kind of grenade or skill tree that you guys happen to choose, each one of these things can easily be used in an aggressive or passive manner, and so it really just comes down to you and how each one of these abilities fits you perfectly. Lastly, go ahead and check out some of my other new videos, as you guys can see right there on the screen. If you happen to enjoy this one, then you're definitely going to enjoy those as well. That's pretty much all that I've got for you as of right now, and so as always, deislayers, great gaming, and until next time.